Hey, namaste, beautiful goddesses. Much love. As you know, my channel is for women in the prime of life. I coach women who want to thrive up to and past 45, spiritual goddesses. Today, I have a wonderful interview for you with Kim Kem. Kim Kem went on a quest. She is an expat from the US. She has traveled a good part of Europe, and where she ended up is a secret. She will share that with us. She'll also share with us, though, how she did it, how she budgeted, what her thought process was, and how she was treated in various places. I know some of the questions you're going to ask, but ask your questions in the comments, and hopefully Kem Kem will come by too and answer them for you.
Well, we ended up leaving the US after the death of one of my sisters because she had cancer. So, you think
Mhm.
about things before big, huge things happen, but you don't really do anything about it.
So, welcome, Kem Kem. Hello. I'm so happy that you're taking time to, share your life and travels and wisdom with my tribe. The first big question
Okay.
is, how did you become an expat? Like, where did this start? I mean, you lived here in the US, right? Where most of my
Yes.
audience is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there all my life, basically since I've been before teenager. And what
Okay.
happened was I had always dreamt of traveling. And so
Okay.
that really like spurred me on.
Mhm. Her passing sort of made you stop and think.
Yes, because I've been saying I wanted to travel around the world. I didn't want any kids ever since I was a kid. So
Mhm.
somehow it didn't happen. I ended up going to work and
Mhm.
working all the time and trying to achieve the American dream. I had the big house and the garden and the whole thing and
Mhm.
just what I wanted. So I'm like, you know what? Life is too short, just like everybody else. So, it happens to a lot of people from what I see. So that was my
Mhm.
spur.
Now, you said we, so tell us a little bit about how that works being married and deciding, well, I'm going to travel. How
Well,
did that work?
it's funny. My husband is from Rome, so
Mhm.
he's a traveler also. I met him in Los Angeles. So he was also used to traveling, even though I suspect that he probably would have preferred to stay in the US because he had just discovered it. He came at the age of like 29, 30 when he left Rome. So it would have been a little more expensive for us to stay there after I quit working and he quit working because as you know it's really like the cost of living there is just insanely
In Rome.
in Rome and in Los
In-
Angeles. Yeah, so it was really nice to meet somebody else who didn't mind, who actually loved traveling. He had lived in
Okay.
Melbourne by himself before he moved to LA. So it was
Mhm.
no big deal for him to do that. So it was a synchronicity.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, so tell us how you met. I thought that was kind of magical.
Oh, okay.
No, I love to with couples, I love to find out how they got together. So, I believe, my channel is in great part about spirituality. So, I do think things happen for a reason. So, that's why I also would love to hear your story.
I'm not really, to be honest with you, I never really believed like things were meant to be kind of
Oh,
person, but this instantly showed me that maybe it is. I was working as a pharmacist in
okay.
Los Angeles for a very long time.
Hmm.
And so in West Hollywood, it's really hard to find parking, and there's no double parking on the streets.
Hmm.
So he was a photographer, and they were doing a shoot with some models in the area.
Okay.
So we had the van parked like in front of the store. And like I was telling you, I never really got any lunch break as a pharmacist. You don't get lunch breaks, you just work right through it. So that was, and I had 12-hour shifts most of the time. So,
Wow.
I'm just rushing to find something to eat in that time. But a lot
Hmm.
of times also, I would have to go with the sales reps to the local hospitals. So we had to go to UCLA one day to talk to the doctors. So after my meetings ended, I came back to the store and I
Hmm.
found I had some time on my hands because there was a relief pharmacist, working for me while I was out. So I didn't know what to do with myself. I couldn't even go out to lunch because, I'd already had lunch at my meeting. So I decided to go to the West Hollywood Library, which is just a stone's throw away from the store. So
Okay.
and I met him there. He was he was checking out some art book like to use to, for their filming. I made some smart alecky remark. I think I said something along the lines of like, that books, you're supposed to check out books at the library and not women. And he burst out laughing, thank God, and yeah, and the rest is history. It's just like,
You have the spare time, which you never have, and I mean to
nope,
randomly, okay, I'm going to go to the library, which you would
yep,
never do in the middle of the day.
no, no, I would never do that. Of course,
No.
I had hair in those days. I had hair.
You want to tell them your story?
When my sister was doing chemo, of
Hmm.
course,
Yeah.
you lose all your hair.
Right.
So me, I was trying to be simpatico, so I shaved off my head in solidarity. And unfortunately, it never grew back. And this is like 8 years later, and she passed away. She had 2 rounds of chemo, and her hair came back, and it was super long. I know she always had long hair.
Do you feel like, I wonder if it's like just the shock and the stress that was associated with cutting it? I don't know.
It's funny because every time I go like this, which I do often, it reminds me of her. So maybe it's supposed to be like it.
That's really fascinating. Yeah, it does remind you of her. It's all, yeah, that could be, there's some real connection, right? You said you were very close, right?
Yes, we were. At the end, we were very close. I have a big family, so
Hmm. And you are originally from
to
Nigeria.
the US at the age of 12. But
Wonderful. Yeah, and was excelled in your career and everything. So we understand what made you decide. It wasn't like, now currently in the US, I think some of us are thinking, well, wow, where else can we live? Let's explore the world. But your motivation was just you love travel. Hey, did you give the video a thumbs up yet? Do it
I
now.
love travel. And, when I was still working,
Hmm.
I made sure that my 2 weeks were spent somewhere else, And in those
Okay.
days, it was before the internet and before, you had your Google and everything. It was just
Right.
me and my guidebook alone, or sometimes with my best friend who was from Bermuda. So we always
Wow.
made sure we travel. It's just always been part of me. Once everything else came along, I enhanced solo traveling and all these things
You've
that
never
all the
been
new
afraid of
names.
solo travel. You've never been
Never,
afraid of that. Okay, and
never.
that's why I wanted to interview you, to really encourage the women on my channel to go where they want to go. Kind of tell us how this adventure began.
I call it the experimental expat. And
Hmm.
that's something I stole from someone. It's a line I stole from someone, but I really like that because I think when people move, first the fear keeps you from moving
Right,
because you think that, it's not going to work out. It's not this, it's not that. And
right.
my point of view is I'm just going to go and I'm going to try it out. Of course,
Okay.
be prepared, have all your ducks in a row, but I was going to go out there and really see. So when we left the US in 2013, I had done my research. We wanted someplace English speaking because I didn't really want to learn another language. And Malta has two languages, Maltese and English. So it was one of the few countries. We also wanted to be close to his mom in Rome and his family. It kind of served both purposes. And we also it was also closer to me going back to Nigeria to visit my family. It just made sense. So Malta was like the place that I zeroed in on.
Tell us, we said to you when we were chatting before that you guys used to have dreams that I was in Malta. It was bizarre. I would wake up and I would know, oh, I was on this. It tend to be like a hill in Malta and yeah, overlooking like the ocean. And I really put it to past life because I literally didn't know where Malta was. And actually, Kem Kem, where's Malta?
It's a tiny, tiny, tiny island in Europe. It's really picture Italy, and
Yeah.
it's really literally about 50 miles away from Sicily.
From like the
So
heel or?
yeah, from the hill. So you could
Hmm.
literally see it from on a clear day. You could see Malta from
Sicily.
Sicily. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
it's actually believed that they used to be Italian and it kind of broke off, like the
I
sea
think it
broke
was
them
a
off.
strategic island and there was always, yeah.
The UK, they
Mhm.
got the independence from UK, so they still
Hmm.
drive on the left and they have the red phone booths and it's very English. So it's
Oh,
a very big expat community, yeah, of
great.
British people. But now it's been discovered by Americans because the
Hmm.
cost of living is really cheap, much
Oh, is
cheaper
it?
than the US. Yes.
Okay.
So much. I mean, we were spending about one fifth of what we were spending in the US.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that. But you were coming from LA.
Well, at that time we're coming from Houston, but yeah, so it was
Okay.
slightly cheaper, but not that much.
What didn't you like about it?
What I didn't like was it was small. It got too small after a while. So I felt like I had seen everything and done everything. And I
Okay.
like the beach, but I don't love it that much, like my husband does, for instance. And it's only like there's only one lane on each side. It's like 22, it's funny because the island itself is really small. And
Okay.
you talk to a Maltese person, they're like, we're going on vacation. And you're like, where? And they're like, we're going to the north. The north, it's 22 miles, right? So you could drive there in less than 45 minutes. This was them going to the vacation homes and going on a vacation. And I'm thinking, wow. And we lived in the north when we first moved there because we were having problems finding accommodations that would take us with our dogs. So it
Ah,
was just
okay.
weird to be there. Like we came to shop inside of the city and they were like talking about us. You live where? We're like, yeah. I mean, it's
Wow.
like I used to drive more than that going to work every day.
Well, but America is so different, right? I mean, it's such a huge country. I think like that's one wonderful thing, right? To see how, some of these countries are really quite small.
Exactly.
How
Very
small they are.
small. Yeah, my
So
friend is from Bermuda, so for her that was like big, because it's about the same size.
you felt you were treated well?
You know,
Mhm.
what I found was there was two ways. You know, if they found out that you were an American, you were treated very well.
Okay.
And as that, a lot of the refugees that come off the boats from Africa, there's two countries that take them, Malta or Italy. And so there was starting to be resentment because the
Right.
rest of the EU were not taking these people
We're
in.
not taking refugees in.
No, because they were just coming really literally by the boatload. There were a lot that Malta was taking in. So I think they felt like, and it's like Italy and it's like Spain. It's the average wage was like €3.60. So these people are already poor. And then they see refugees coming in where even though they're put like in a section and they're cutting off from everybody else, they were given money to like live on. It wasn't a lot, but I think
Right.
the
So
resentment
there
was
was
starting
resentment.
to, yeah.
Sure.
So I started to see a little bit of that, like the bus will go by, and if they see that it's refugees, the bus would kind of like go past them. But once, of course, they take a look at me or another Black person, and they know automatically that you have money or you're not
You're treated
from Africa.
differently.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So there was always that thing.
Honestly, that you're going to be a drain.
No, they're not. And
Right. So it
so,
is different.
yeah, it
I've
is.
been told that by other black folks who like in Brazil,
Yeah.
same thing.
We, some of the places that we wanted to live in included Budapest,
Hmm.
Berlin,
Hmm.
and Brussels in Ghent.
Brussels is really
Yeah,
expensive, isn't it?
it is. So we were actually thinking of Ghent, which is like about a half an hour by train from there. And it's a college town, very nice, very lovely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually still a little bit expensive, you
Hmm.
know. And the thing we were finding out that was like a common thing with pretty much every place we went to was the cost of living wasn't as cheap as Malta, and it seemed like they were geared more towards kids, like college age,
Hmm.
30 maybe, where you're okay with living with like three roommates to make ends meet. Yeah, and I'm like,
Right.
we're past that. Like
Right.
everybody was like, Berlin is so cheap. Yeah, it's cheap if you're willing to live with three or four people where you pay
Right.
like 15 or 16 or $1,700 or more for an apartment and you have this little room. But if you're a
Right. But you're a
couple,
married couple,
yeah,
so you want your
exactly.
own
So
residence.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like we're not out partying every night. We needed you.
Right.
We
The
needed like
bars weren't super important.
exactly. So what I did in the end, because I couldn't decide where really, like where do we
Oh
try
yeah, I love
that?
the story. Yeah. What did you do?
I got a pencil and I got a map of Europe and I stood in our living room in Malta and just threw the pen, and it hit Malaga in Spain. Now needless to say, if it had hit like Russia or someplace, I would have thrown the pencil again until I
Okay.
hit something like, but
Uh-huh.
it hit Malaga. So it was okay. I'm like, okay, Spain is fine. We'll try that. And, Spanish will probably be a little bit easier for me to learn. So I said, let's
Yeah.
go there. So
Yeah.
that's how we ended up in Malaga. But we were
Wow.
really in love with that part of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't suit us. Neither, because I'm always like, I like stuff. He likes different things. Sometimes we like the same things. And when I write things on the blog, we always sometimes disagree, but I like to present both sides. But it
Mm-hmm.
was just one of those times where neither one of us liked it. Yeah, it's called Next Bite of Life.
Okay. And I'll put the link below. There'll be everything
Okay.
will be below, guys.
Yeah, and so, I always wrote about what we experience when we go to these places. And
Mm-hmm.
so after we kind of broke our lease after 7 months in Malaga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't take it. Okay.
We went to visit a friend in Seville and we were just like, oh, this is so much nicer.
Sevilla. How
Yeah,
do they
so
pronounce it? Sevilla?
it's Sevilla, yeah.
Sevilla. Yeah.
It's, so we really liked it there and we probably would have stayed, but it is really hot there in the summertime. So
See,
we were only able to take 2 summers before we had to say, this is it. I mean, coming from Houston, we're like, oh, this isn't too bad.
right.
No, it's pretty bad. Oh my God. And it's muggy and it's just horrible. Like it would be like 10:30 in the evening and you still couldn't go out to the pool because the pool was like, boiling hot. It was hot and they had told us that before. And,
Huh.
the city kind of drains out in the summertime because all the
It-
local
It's
people go
it's
to their country homes or they
right.
go to the beach
Just to get
towns.
some
And
coolness. So
yes,
you,
exactly.
being an expat, had moved in, but that was your place. You didn't have
Yes,
right. Well,
exactly.
even New York City does that, Kem Kem. Like New
Yeah,
York City, I mean, I grew
mountains.
up in the city, but it is really hot in the summer and
Yes.
some places even smell, which nobody mentions.
Oh,
Um,
here, Valencia does too, and Spain. A lot of cities smell because think of how the old buildings are, and that's how what they look like. So the
uh-huh.
sewer system is not advanced. There's still
Uh-huh.
some places where you can't flush the toilet with toilet paper in Spain.
Oh,
So
wow. That's good
you
for
pay
us
a
to know,
whole lot of,
people.
yeah, you can go pay a lot of money in the city center, and still in the summertime, you're still gonna you're still
Wow.
gonna smell the stink. So
So you ended up leaving. The heat was too much. So the
yes.
last place where you are now is
Yes, which is Valencia, and I am
Valencia.
just in love. You know how you like reach a place and you think,
This is it?
so yeah, because like I said, I was okay with going on and on and on and then until we found some place that we
Mm-hmm.
felt
Because you love
comfortable in.
travel. So you weren't
Yes,
like, oh, I'm
exactly.
looking for this other
Locked in,
home. You were
yeah,
enjoying the search.
exactly. And I
Okay.
think that's also what the kind of attitude I think a lot of people should have because
Good.
people move away and they think, I moved to, Spain and I
Yeah.
must stay there. And even if I
Yeah.
don't like it, I'm going to stay there
You
because
told
I
everybody you're
promised.
going, so you feel
Yeah,
like a failure if, yeah.
exactly. And I don't think
Okay.
that's right. Even
Mhm.
if you're in the US, I grew up in Boston, but after a while I'm like, oh, screw this. I'm like, leave. I don't want to be in the snow. I don't want to do this. So I moved to LA.
So you're very
Moved,
independent.
yes.
Very independent, yeah. Which, like I said, I want to inspire. I just don't think that we see many Black women presented as traveling now on Instagram and in the younger, the 20-something set.
Yes.
Sure, it's a thing now, but
Yes. You see
but
the back
anyway,
of the
so
head and the
yeah,
pretty and the thing. And I'm like, okay, can I see like where you're at? Not
right,
you in a
right.
bikini, not you in a dress, not you. I want to see where you're
The
at.
place. Well, before we wrap up, though, tell us a little bit about why you like Valencia.
Well, first of all, I think the beauty got to me.
Okay.
It's along the Costa Brava. It's a beachy
Mhm.
area, so the breeze is nice in the summertime.
Oh, nice.
And
Hmm.
it's got the newer, which is like the city of arts and science, and
Okay.
then it's got the older part of Valencia,
Mm.
and the combination is just amazing. We had thought of living in Barcelona, and we actually did a
Yeah.
scouting thing where we stayed for a few weeks. But I liked it, he didn't like it, and it was way too expensive. We
Uh,
also tried Madrid, and we stayed for a few weeks. But by the time we were able to find an apartment where we could afford, because if you're in the city in the center of Madrid, you can expect to pay anywhere like 3,000 for an apartment.
Wow.
So by the time we got to where we're comfortable, and we were so far out, we're like, what this isn't even, it's by the airport. It's not really Madrid at this point. So it
Oh,
didn't make
okay.
any sense. So
Okay.
Valencia is like the third biggest city uh, in Spain.
In Spain. Okay.
It's not too big like Barcelona, Madrid.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not too small like Sevilla. It's just
It's just right.
it's just right. I keep
Yeah.
saying I felt like Goldilocks. It's like, you keep trying all these things and then all of a sudden,
Right.
and the cost of living is really inexpensive.
Hmm.
Healthcare, it's just everything kind of just gel together. And for my husband, it's like his thing is because he loves to cook. His
Ah,
thing is like the cost of living. Everywhere we go, the first place we head to is the grocery store
and
because you can
see.
tell,
Okay.
yeah, you can tell so much more about the place based on how much it costs for things in the store.
That no,
So
that makes a lot of sense. I was reading about some sort of Northern European country, and I swear to God, when they said like milk was $7, it was just it was something that you
I,
would buy regularly, the
I bet
average
it's
person, and the price was so ridiculous. I was like, "Oh my God, are you kidding?"
I bet it's Stockholm. We went to Stockholm not to see about living there because we already knew it was expensive, but we had this basic lunch. I mean, it's a chain, like a British chain called Wagamama's, and it's like, they have a little udon soup and,
Uh-huh.
like three fried shrimp and
Uh-huh.
just for two of us. This really fried shrimp, like two beers, it was like 66 euros. It's like almost $70 for
Which
something
is
that,
more, right, which
yeah,
is more in
something that
American
here I
dollars.
would pay. It's not even like, yeah, it's like $70 American. But if you were in the US, you wouldn't pay more than 6.99. It's something that you would get like a McDonald's, like a big meal or something.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
it
yeah.
was that expensive.
In
But they, of
Stockholm.
course, yeah, they get paid more. So
Sure.
Spain, it's much lower as far as like,
So how are you managing? I know it's a bit, that's everybody's, well, like briefly, how do you manage? Is it just on your retirement or do you work or
actually, no, I do not work.
Mhm.
Neither one of us does. We took early retirement.
Early retirement?
Well,
Okay.
we didn't. Basically, my plan is we once my sister passed away, we were like, okay, what do we need to get away? And
Mhm.
we're like, we need this set amount of money.
So you
So
did a
that's what we did.
budget.
We did, and so
Okay.
for three and a half years it took us. We didn't buy any new thing. We didn't do. I mean, we
You didn't go out. You didn't like
no,
go out to
no,
dinner and
no,
movies and
nothing.
okay.
And it was funny because all my friends were like, "Are you sure we'll pay for you?" I'm like, no, we really just cut everything out.
Wow.
And at that point, when we moved to Houston, we had it wasn't exactly flipping. We were buying and hold because what I discovered was I thought everything was super expensive in Houston,
Mm-hmm.
much like LA, like real estate. But we were able to find really cheap condos, like 25,000, like
Hmm.
for a two-bedroom, and
Oh, really?
27,000. So, and they were not in the best neighborhoods, but we got them and they were livable, fixed them up and rented them. And so we're getting that rent. And
Hmm.
so we were using that to buffer our savings. And, we did that for, actually, we just got rid of the last one
Hmm.
not too long ago. So basically, we did that,
Hmm.
and the return on how much we were paying for each condo was obviously more. Because you buy it for 25, you rent it for 700, 750, or what have you. There's a little bit of profit, so it really stepped up how much we were able to save. And so we've been living off savings in hopes of like surviving till 59 and a half when we can start drawing on the 401k, so that
Oh, okay.
that is
Okay.
the because if you don't have a job where you're working online or something, you can't move to Spain and think you're going to get a job. No,
Okay. So
there's no
that's
such thing.
something that tell us about how folks can get in touch with you and your books.
Yeah, I have a book on like moving to Spain and moving to
Okay.
Valencia, and it's available on Amazon, and it's
Okay.
called Best Expat Life in the Sun Guide. And
Oh,
it's mostly focused on Valencia.
okay.
So
Nice.
it tells you how to, how to go about where to find the information and what you need,
Mm-hmm.
as far as like getting the visa, what you need to prepare, what you're going to find once you get to Valencia.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
just and how it's a big melting pot. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a way to like help people, because the first reason why I started the blog was to help. I couldn't get an information when I was looking to move to Malta. So once I got there, that's when I started the blog, so
Mm,
that
okay.
everybody else coming behind me would have something, as a reference.
And you have a Malta book or ebook, right?
Yes, ebook. This is ebook also. I just happen to have
A hard copy of
a
that one.
moving to Malta, guide, how to adjust once you're there. So it's not much. It's more towards like how to get your bank account, how to make your life a whole lot easier, and the schools that are there and all that.
I mean, because you've moved around a bit, so I feel like you would be a wonderful person if someone wanted to maybe book some time with you. I know that's not something you've necessarily set up, but I feel like you have such a wealth of information. And with the internet and with Zoom, perhaps if they wanted to do an extended stay somewhere, you'd be someone that they could say, hey, because you've been through like 7 cities, right? Or so that you've named.
Yeah, like as far as like thinking of, but I've been to a lot more that I just
Well,
traveled to.
but I mean, let's say places
Yeah.
you've lived in for even a month. It sounds to me like you've hit at least
Oh
seven
yeah.
places.
Oh yeah. There are
Yeah,
quite a few of them. At
yeah.
least, yeah, at least 7 to 10.
7 to 10. So you're really a wealth of information. But you're not officially a consultant, right?
Not yet, but I've been thinking about it because, like I said,
Yeah,
and you were so gracious to me. People do call or write me
they
through
do.
the blog, through the YouTube channel. They've
Mhm.
started asking questions. So I've been thinking about veering into consultation work because
Yeah.
if I can help, and
And last thing, say the name of your YouTube channel and then we
it's
will.
called it's
Yeah.
also called Next Bite of Life. Yes,
Okay.
Next Bite of Life, because
Great.
we were taking our next.
It's really inspiring. So thank you so, so much. All the links, I will put them below so you can find her YouTube channel. And I think what I'll do is just link directly also to your blog. Just
Yeah.
read about her travels and get inspired. So thank you so much for taking time to be with us. I really appreciate that and sharing your
Thank you.
story, you
Thank you
know.
so much for having me. It's been
Yeah.
fun.